Hey everybody, it's Dan Rayfield, your state representative from Corvallis, Philomath, and Oregon State University. We haven't done a video in a little while, and we thought the conclusion of the 2021 legislative session would be a good time to get back in the habit. And so in this video, I want to talk to you a little bit about what happened during the 21 session, some of the bill highlights, the things that passed during the 21 session, some of our office priorities. We also have a special guest who's going to provide some hot takes on the 2021 session. And finally, I want to talk to you a little bit about some community events that are going to be going on in the near future. Let's get started. In January, at the beginning of the 2021 legislative session, we were coming off of a historic wildfire season that had devastated communities across Oregon. We were also in the midst of a pandemic that had caused state revenues to decline. As a result, when we started this session, it was one where we were trying to maintain the level of service that we provide to Oregonians, not necessarily increase the services that we're providing. There were two things that happened during the session, however, that really changed the landscape. One of those was a revenue forecast that increased revenues for the state of Oregon. The second was a very significant, sizable federal relief package that gave us flexibility with our budgets. Specifically, we were able to create packages that were responsive to some of the most significant crises or issues that were impacting our state. I want to talk to you a little bit about those. The first area of focus for us was housing, which is a crisis in every corner of our state. We created a $750 million investment package that focuses on supports as well as increasing the supply of affordable housing across the state. We also looked at wildfire, where we created a $600 million investment package focused on mitigation as well as management of our forest fires. There was a $65 million package focused on public health modernization as well as emergency management modernization. We had a $470 million package that was responsive to the behavioral health crisis that we see regarding access and equity issues in the behavioral health arena. We created a $200 million package for the caring economy. These are the folks that take care of our seniors as well as our Oregonians with disabilities. We want to support this workforce so that they can provide better care to those Oregonians in need. We also passed a historic education budget with significant investments in new equity initiatives to the tune of $11.3 billion. In the economic development realm, we had a $500 million water investment package that focused on quality as well as quantity of water infrastructure. And finally, one of the biggest infrastructure investment packages the legislature has passed was done this session to the tune of $2 billion to help keep Oregonians working across the state.
Hi everyone, I'm Ryan. I use she, her pronouns, and in this office, I work mostly on the budget and on election policy.
Hi everybody, I'm Jack. I use he, his pronouns, and I usually work on social media and communicating with constituents.
During the 2021 legislative session, Oregon made groundbreaking changes in early childhood education with the creation of a brand new agency, the Early Learning Authority. House Bill 3073 significantly modernizes our childcare system to ensure that we are creating equitable and affordable access to childcare.
Another great bill that passed this session was SB 554, also known as the Safe Storage Act. SB 554 reduces risk of accidental gun death or suicide by ensuring that firearms will be stored in a gun safe or with a cable or trigger lock.
Another significant policy the legislature passed is House Bill 2021, which creates the strongest electricity emissions reduction plan in the country and makes significant investments in our energy grid. This legislation will ensure that Oregon is doing our part in the fight against climate change.
As a part of our efforts to expand healthcare access to all Oregonians, the legislature passed SB 551. SB 551 ensures that all part-time faculty of our higher education institutions will have access to healthcare.
Back in 2017, the Oregon legislature passed Cover All Kids to ensure that all children, no matter their immigration status, will have access to the Oregon Health Plan. This session, we expanded the program to cover all people to ensure that adults who would otherwise qualify for Medicaid will have access to healthcare. House Bill 3352 is another critical step to ensure that all Oregonians can live a healthy life.
Finally, the legislature took action on critical police accountability reforms, including updates to duty to intervene and use of force regulations, clarifications on when and how crowd control munitions can be deployed, and passage of the Sanctuary Promise Act. which protects undocumented Oregonians by keeping federal immigration enforcement and local law enforcement authorities separate.
This was just a snapshot of the many amazing bills that we passed this session. For more information on any other legislation, please do not hesitate to contact our office.
This is a new segment. It's an impromptu segment that we're doing right now. This is how to pronounce our names. Mine's pretty simple. It's Dan Rayfield, right? Like, not challenging. It's a one-syllable first name. Pretty easy. However, we have two people in our office. So let's start off with Ryan, right? How many times did people mispronounce your name this year?
This year or my lifetime?
Just in the session. Just in the session.
Oh, a couple hundred.
A couple hundred easy. So her name is spelled Ryann. So what we could do is pronounce it, and the way I think about it is start with the R, the RY, Rye, and then Ann.
Say it together.
Ryann. All right. So that's one. Jack, let's talk about your last name.
Okay, this one is, people legitimately have a right to be confused on this one because sometimes you see it with an H in there and it's pronounced Lehman, but it is not. It's pronounced Lehman, like it's double E's.
Lehman. So let's spell it out. L-E-H-A. L-O-M-A-N. All right, there we go.
Wait.
Clearly Dan doesn't even...
I know, I just...
Wait, why are we, you should be spelling it out. We should be quiet and then like all together now. Okay.
All right, I'm probably not gonna edit this. It's all just gonna come together. So let's do it.
It's impromptu.
Let's just say it's already up on the screen. We don't know that, but it will be. So let's pronounce it together. Lee-man. Lee-man.
A+.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I think I screwed it up. Well, that's embarrassing since I created this segment.
Awkward.
In a long legislative session, there are a lot of things that our office works on. However, there's several things that we accomplish this session that we're extremely proud of. The first area that I would like to highlight has to do with voter access. And at a time when legislatures across the country are decreasing access to the ballot, Oregon went the opposite direction. In fact, there were two bills that our office sponsored that will increase voter access. The first one is House Bill 3291, which has to do with the postmark date on a ballot. Right now, a ballot, if it is not received on election day, is not counted. And so there are hundreds of people across the state that sit down, they fill out their ballot, they take the time to determine who they want to govern them, but they mail their ballot too late, and it's received after election day. This bill will allow ballots to be counted if the postmark is postmarked before election day. The second bill is House Bill 2681, and this has to do with inactive voters. Inactive voters are folks that are put on a list and no longer receive a ballot. Inactive voters can be put on the inactive list for failing to vote. Our bill removes the ability of clerks to put voters on the inactive list for failing to vote, as well as people that do wind up on the inactive list are then provided notices at each election that they are on the inactive list and how to get off of the inactive list. Finally, this bill will activate about 18,000 voters that were put on the inactive list for failing to vote that have valid addresses. The second set of issues that I want to bring to your attention are community-driven or community-led bills. These are bills that were brought to our attention by members in our own community. The first community-led bill was House Bill 3234, and this was a bill that was brought to our attention about 5 years ago by a Crescent Valley High School student named Nisha. Nisha came to us with a vision of how to increase life-saving organ donations here in Oregon. The bill that passed will require organ donation education to occur in high school prior to students applying for their driver's licenses. That way, students have information at their fingertips when they're making that critical decision on whether or not to be an organ donor. The second bill was House Bill 2682. This focuses on workplace safety. There was a tragic accident in Benton County when unsafe equipment, heavy equipment, arrived at a job site for a public works project. This bill will ensure that when equipment arrives at the job site, it is safe. Finally, we want to talk to you a little bit about some of the infrastructure investments that will be coming to Benton County. Specifically, Benton County will receive $1.25 million for a crisis respite center to take care of Oregonians in need. The Lynn Benton Housing Authority will receive $750,000 for a land acquisition fund to purchase property for affordable housing in Philomath or Corvallis. Both Philomath and Corvallis will also receive money for water infrastructure projects. Philomath will receive $12 million, Corvallis will receive $10.5 million. It's hopeful that these investments in water infrastructure will keep our community water rates down for years to come. Thanks for sticking with us this long. We wanted to update you on a few community events coming your way, and they're both community coffees with us to kind of wrap up the legislative session. The first will be in Corvallis on July 24th at the Martin Luther King Park in the Walnut Barn. We'll have coffee there, and it will go from 10 to 11. The second event will be in Philomath at the Philomath City Park, again from 10 to 11 on August 7th. We hope to see you there, and again, thanks for watching.